Hiring manager for a large company, and if you've ever been in that position of having kind of start to all flow together, and you have to try to find a way to differentiate people so that you know not just who are the best fits for the company, but maybe who might be the best fit for a particular department. And so he fell back to one of those personality test questions that even I've used as a teacher, as a writing prompt. You've probably heard it. It asks, if you could be a tree, what kind of tree would you be? And I had no idea the power of this question because I had all kinds of people after the first service coming up to me and telling me what kind of tree they were. So you're really doing the work today. But he looked at the applications, and there were three that jumped out at him. The first one was, this person said, I am a sequoia, tall, regal, and I oversee all things. So the guy said, okay, that's a person clearly shooting for upper management. The second person said, I'm going to be a mangrove. You know, I'm connected to the sky and the earth and even the water. And I want to be that place where all the different animals and fauna and flora come to be present in this wonderful ecosystem. And he said, human resources. And then last but not least, somebody put, I'm a cactus. I'm prickly. I don't like to be around people very much. And in fact, I prefer to work alone. And he said, perfect, customer service. Now, the good news is this. It doesn't matter how you answer that question of what kind of tree you would be. Because no matter what tree you consider yourself to be, no matter what kind of fruit that you think God is calling you to bear, you are welcome to be planted in the soil here in this parish. Doesn't matter what kind of tree you are. You can plant yourself here. You can put down roots. You can be nourished by what God offers and the soil that is here from our forebears. And this theme of the soil, this theme of the tree and its roots is so important that it's what we have made the theme of our stewardship campaign this year. We've come to that time of year where we're asking ourselves, what kind of fruit does God want us to bear? We know those fruits of faith and hope and love and mercy and justice and all these things. But each one of us has to do that discernment for ourselves about where God is calling us. If you look here at the wonderful text, we're using Jeremiah 17:8. They shall be like a tree planted by water, sending out its roots by the stream. It shall not fear when heat comes, and its leaves shall stay green. In the year of drought, it is not anxious, and it does not cease to bear fruit. When I hear that text from Jeremiah, I hear two things. The first is, I hear that God has said, this is where you belong. Okay, just checking. As long as all of you heard it too. If I'm the only one hearing it, then I've got a problem. But I love this text from Jeremiah because it's really talking about two things. It is God has said, this is where you belong. If you are planted by the water, if you are planted in this soil, then you will thrive. You will be abundant. But the other part of it is that it doesn't mean that there's not going to be any challenges. It doesn't mean that there's never going to be drought. It doesn't mean that there's never going to be this heat that we know here in Florida just kills trees. And so the question that I want to put to all of us today is, how are we going to renew the soil that has been given to us here, that has been passed on to us? God's provided the water. It is we who provide the soil. And there's really two challenges that I think I would like for us to talk about today in our own congregation. The first one is that we live in an increasingly divided world. There's the social division, there's political division, economic division. I was joking in the first service, there's even division among college football. But as I have said, if I can get along as a Seminole with the Gators, then all things are possible with God. Now, in the midst of this division, we have a choice. Are we going to stay rooted when the challenge and the division comes? Or are we going to uproot ourselves and try to go away from the community? Trees that don't stay closely rooted to the ground fall over. Trees that don't stay closely rooted to the ground die. And my fear is, my anxiety sometimes is that the world is becoming so divided that the church will forget that our task is to remain rooted and connected to one another. There's lots of reasons to be divided, but the reason that we come together is that we're unified in one body, one Spirit, one Lord and God and Father of all. One of the largest organisms on earth is actually a series of connected trees. And at first people thought, well, it's just, one tree here, and there's another tree over there, and there's another tree, a large forest. No. It was one interconnected organism. And the roots were so intertwined with one another that if one tree was suffering over here, this other tree could draw nourishment. And if this tall tree over here was growing, it could safeguard the smaller trees. Doesn't that sound like what the kingdom is supposed to be about? Because I don't know about you, but in my life of the church, my experience has been that there are times when I feel like the tall tree, and sometimes when I feel like I'm the dying tree. And I'm so thankful for the moments when I can give to somebody else, and I'm even more thankful the times when somebody has given life to me. So that's the first challenge. When the divisions come, can we remain rooted, or will we pull ourselves up and try to live on our own? The second challenge is, as we look to the future, and I'm so excited about the way this parish has begun to grow even before I got here and is now continuing to grow as we work together, that the soil has to be renewed. If you've ever planted a crop or planted anything, and don't look to me because I don't have a green thumb, but if you've ever planted anything, you know that over time the soil just gets used up. If anybody remembers George Washington Carver and peanuts, this is where that innovation that he came up with was so helpful. It renewed the soil. And this is what we're asking you to consider over the next several weeks as part of stewardship. Because stewardship is not, let me emphasize this, stewardship is not about selling you something. I hate when somebody tries to sell me something. And I've been in churches, in a stewardship sermon, listening that somebody's trying to sell the church to me. And it feels too much like when I went to go buy my first car, and somebody said, what do I got to do to put you in this Corolla? So stewardship is not about selling, it's about connecting. And so the way that we connect with one another and we connect with God is by asking how we wish to give. And so the time, the talent, and yes, the treasure that you give is what renews the soil. Think of the ministries of the church that are in need of volunteers. We don't just need volunteers because we want more people to get involved. That's a good reason, but that's not the only reason. We need more people to be volunteers because it brings an energy. It brings an enthusiasm that cannot be replicated. So when you give of your time, when you give of your talent, that is so vital to the life of the church. When you give of your funds, it does more than just make sure that the lights turn on and that Father Alex has vestments. And it's not investing. That's the other word I don't like when somebody says, make an investment in the church. The church is not a 401k. The giving that comes from the heart is to say, Lord, in this place, these are the needs. And the needs go far beyond our walls. So when we do give even of our treasure, we're making a profound statement that's saying, we are connected here. And through this connection, we wish to form and change the kingdom. So how will we renew the soil over the next year? Well, my hope is that each one of us will take the next several weeks and pray and look at the pledge card that will be coming in, and look at both sides, by the way, because it's not, as I said before, it's not just about the treasure side, it's about the time and talent side as well. And say, can I help St. John's achieve 100% participation? Imagine that. If the church had 100% participation in things like singing, well, maybe 99%. If we had 100% participation in our outreach, or if we had 100% participation in our pastoral care ministry, or if we had 100% participation in hospitality, how would the church be transformed? So I come back and I emphasize this main point. God has called you and I. He has planted you and I here in this time, in this place, to put down roots, to be firm in a world that's constantly moving, to be stable in a world where people feel that nothing is stable, and to bear fruit where people are starving. And they shall be like a tree planted by water, sending out its roots by the stream. It shall not fear when heat comes, and its leaves shall stay green. In the year of drought, it is not anxious, and it does not cease to bear fruit. Amen.